All
I
right.
think we're live. So this is the December edition of the Every Second Matters chat, and we got a mix of people joining us. It looks like I'm just gonna go from my left to my right. We got G Lee.
Hey, how's it going? I think I'm going to go by Lee on here just to clarify things up and stuff like that.
Sounds good. And thanks for joining us. And then we got Marco, the digital
What's
core.
up? What's up, gentlemen?
We got Moon Food.
What's up?
Some guy in Sandy.
Hey, everybody.
And Stone Guy.
Yes, sir. Stone Guy 223. Appreciate you tuning in.
$3.99 guns. If you pay $400 for a gun, you're crazy.
Ladies.
And then I am GWebs or whatever, gun websites. And we've got a couple of links out there to others, and this is an open forum. We get together on the second day of every month in honor of our Second Amendment, which, well, we all know what the Second Amendment is. So we've got a couple of topics to talk about, and I also want to encourage anybody out there on the YouTube side or on the gun channel side to give us, if you're interested in a link, give us a heads up, and one of us will try to send you out a link so that we can get as much new participation as possible. So I wanted to get about half and half. We can hold 10 people in here, and what we got about, well, I guess we got 6 people that are old timers, and then we'll have room. I guess I don't know if Ralph's coming back or not. We'll have some slots for new people too. If no new people jump in, then we'll add some more people, and we'll get it to 10, and we'll have the conversation going for what, an hour or so, whatever we end up, running for. Anybody got anything to start off with? Or am I missing anything? I think I said everything. Oh, it's everysecondmatters.us, and we're on every social media. So it's a nonprofit. We're not anything. There's no money. So it's just the concept is the logo gets the conversation started. Us as gun owners at the grassroots level, individuals can talk to people about guns, and hopefully let more people out there know that regular people own guns.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Strictly an awareness campaign, if you will, that to me, as a gun community, the more we can bring it to the front page and get people talking about it and make people aware that we are gun owners, we're responsible, law-abiding citizens. We're your neighbors, your teachers, your doctors, all mix in the community, and they may not be aware that you carry a gun. So on the second, we try to not be in your face about it, but maybe be a little more upfront. Not that we're hiding anything, but be more upfront, maybe open carry, or maybe strike up a conversation with someone to allow them to ask questions and allow them the opportunity to know that you are a firearms owner and that kind of thing. So it's kind of cool. Get behind it, do what you can on the second, and every day for that matters. But
now, I guess I should also mention that we talked about the logo. We've made up this logo, about a year ago now, something like that, where it's just the word every, the 2ND for second, and then matters. And it's what I guess we had Quark set up some shirts at what is it? What's it called? Spreadshirt. So it's just they don't exist until you order it, kind of thing. And once you order it, they make it and send it out to you. So we've got those, and then we did a run of patches about a year ago when we first started everything, and there were Velcro patches with a black background that said "Every Second Matters" in white. And I just posted a link out on the gun channels. I'll post it on the comments of this video as well. But we're going to do a Kickstarter, a crowdsourcing type of funding to do a tan background version. So if anybody's interested in jumping in on a patch, they're going to be $5 each, shipped, and like I said, the link will be out there. We're just going to run it for a few days. We only need about 25-30 people on board to get them made, and then we'll have another run, maybe in 3 months or whenever it is that we get more people asking for another batch of them.
Right on. So we were talking about the awareness thing just now. One thing I was kind of curious about was, do y'all see, like, how prevalent is the Second Amendment in your area? Do you guys see it as like a visible thing? Do you see people talking about guns or open carrying or whatever? Like, was guns an issue in the recent elections that people were talking about in your areas?
I mean, in my area it is. I think, of course, we're kind of rural, southern. I'm in Georgia, in Atlanta, so it's not as uncommon where I'm at, but I still think it's, I don't know, to me, I've always been an advocate of anytime you can be seen in public, in a positive manner. I just think it reflects as a whole on the gun community. I mean, the more people that see, and I'm kind of an advocate of open carry in a sense. Depending on your attire, I also believe that you should be, you don't have to be in a suit and tie, but well dressed, well groomed, just a good representative of the gun community. I think the more people that see that, it's kind of a subliminal message in a way. It's like, oh, you might have someone that tells someone, oh, I saw this guy that was carrying a gun at the grocery store, and nothing happened. He didn't shoot anybody. It was, I mean, it's.
And it doesn't even have to be like we expect them to start a conversation, but like you say, you're just a normal dude doing your day-to-day thing, and you happen to have a gun on. People see it, and now there's some discussion elsewhere, different time and place, and then that person can remember, no, I saw a guy walk around the store and it was no big deal, and then now there's a discussion going on and they can interject and say no. In other words, they don't have to start the conversation, but they can add to an existing conversation.
And that totally works. Like, so I'm a student at a university over here, and we had some new people come from all over the country. And a couple of my newer friends, they're from California, and they're telling me about how they saw someone open carrying over at the hardware store. And they'd never seen that before, but it turned out, like, I was talking to them about it, and they were interested in guns, and we went shooting after that. And so, I mean, it definitely works, and it definitely gets people just, I don't know, it brings it to the forefront of their mind.
I think it's always good to smile and do a good deed when you're open carrying too, because that way these people remember you as being like someone that held the door for me, or someone that picked up something that I dropped.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Portland area and Multnomah County, they've kind of passed some ordinances around here that make that difficult to do, even though statewide open carry is pretty much acceptable.
You mean you're going to let an out-of-stater open carry there and you're not?
Well, there it is, right? So, I mean, so you don't really see it a lot, especially in the city. Clackamas County is a different story where I live. So, out here you see people open carry from time to time, but most people just, it's like don't ask, don't tell, right? They don't print, nobody knows.
I like open. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I like to open carry downtown just so that they can try and tell me I can't do it. Because
it's just the city ordinance. They can't really push it too hard. But I mean,
well, the deal is if you have a concealed carry permit, it nullifies their ordinance, so you can open carry loaded. Because the way their ordinance is written currently, you can open carry, but your gun can't be loaded unless you have a concealed carry permit. Sort of weird, but yeah. I have a carry permit.
Roger that.
The whole visibility thing, though, is always interesting. I think it just kind of builds upon itself. It's like the other day I heard some people overheard some people talking at a restaurant about gun stuff, and I think that when people just walk by or they hear that, whether or not they're gun people, it brings it more into the norm. Like, it's just like an everyday kind of thing. It becomes part of the landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the whole thing. The less taboo we can make it, the more people are going to start to accept it as being just a normal thing and not a whoa.
I don't know what that was.
Not some
Yeah.
evil tool.
Being one of the group that actually open carries frequently, I just do it like I'm going about my normal business. If you start trolling like some of the other YouTube channels do, that doesn't help our cause at all. Even one of the places I go to, normally it's a Mongolian Grill. I open carry there all the time, but the last time I was in, they said they changed their policy, and the only real change they made was if you're open carrying, they asked that you didn't purchase alcohol, because 2 guys came in, ordered alcohol, got a little belligerent, and made people nervous. So it didn't stop me from open carrying there, but it changed the conditions, which I thought was sort of stupid, because if those 2 guys hadn't have been jackasses, it wouldn't have changed anything at all.
Well, and that's always going to be the biggest challenge, right? I mean, I don't know if you saw it, and I don't know the cop's name, but there was a cop being interviewed. I saw the video. I'll have to dig it up, and if I find it, I'll put a link in there. But he was incensed about being asked about being on the phone, right, while some stuff was going on, and he basically let the reporters have it, right? Because apparently some child had been shot and so on. And he made a big point about saying that, you know, you've got thugs roaming the streets with modern semi-automatic, you know, handguns, blah blah blah, and you know, like this was obviously something he didn't support, right? Yeah, so you're going to have that, unfortunately.
But going back to what Luke was talking about, you know, when one person like kind of screws up with firearms industry, or I mean the community, it just gets like put as a reflection of the whole community. And like in other groups, it doesn't really happen. Like I guess like you have drunk drivers or whatever. You see someone driving, you get pissed off at that individual. You're like, oh well, you know. But they don't say that's like a reflection of drivers as a whole.
Exactly. You don't hear them like boycotting the Corvette club because someone got in a wreck while driving a Corvette, you know.
But
Right.
alcohol in general does take a black eye for that. So you got to think about all the people that don't. I mean, there are a lot of people that don't drink and say, well, there shouldn't be drinking available because people do drink and drive. So they may not look at the car, but alcohol sure as hell does get a dirty look.
Maybe
Right.
maybe this brings up a good topic in that as we are trying to be good representatives of the firearms public, do you think as long as you aren't an ass like these individuals I talked about, is it okay if you're open carrying and it's lawful to drink in public while you're carrying?
I don't know. I'm on the fence
Yes,
on
sir.
that one.
Same thing. Everything applies. Are people evil when they're drinking? Do we become morally corrupt? I mean, I guess there's people that think that, but I mean, in real life, is that true? Do people change their things?
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
being blotto drunk is one thing, but having a beer or a wine.
That's true. That's a great caveat to that.
I mean, if we call all drinkers, I mean, I'm not a drinker, so I'll advocate. You know, nobody's saying I'm just trying to advocate for being a drunk or something, or barely drink. But I can understand that if we're going to condemn all drinkers because some people drink to excess, that's like saying the same thing they say about guns, right?
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. And when
I think people get worried about it because, you know, if you're having a beer or whatever, how many you have, it could make you more negligent. It could make you more likely to make a mistake, and I think that's where people get concerned about it.
But I think this kind of stuff already happens, whether legislation is there or not. I mean, these people drink and they carry guns, or they drink
Oh,
and
yeah, of
they
course.
discharge. So there's really no need for. You got to make the argument that there's no need for a law that's not going to stop it.
Yeah, and I think that's the bigger point, because I think as we all kind of realize, and even by the own statistics, you know, an overwhelming majority of incidents are like the culprit or the catalyst is generally alcohol. I mean, when it comes to infractions of the law. And so I think that has kind of automatically has a negative connotation attached to it when you see someone with a beer in their hand, especially for someone that doesn't drink. There's that they automatically kind of get that kind of looked down upon, like, oh God, this guy's, he's consuming alcohol, and what's next? And then when you add a firearm into the mix, it's definitely going to put someone on a higher alert, I guess, for lack of a better
That's true.
term.
But do we keep going towards everybody's always wrong and everybody's always evil until they prove themselves otherwise, or do we go back towards everybody's free and until they bother me? I don't care what they're doing.
I don't think we're talking so much about laws, but what about like us as a
While
community?
carrying.
What? You broke up bad, Yankee.
What are we talking about? Drinking while carrying?
Yes.
Okay.
Whether we were primarily talking about drinking while open carrying, but
Yeah, that's a bad
concealed
representation.
carrying can fall right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Well, but really open is what matters, is because it's all about perception is what we're talking about here, and if that's a bad perception or if it's not.
I would definitely agree it's a bad perception, and I would also just agree that it's a bad idea. Just like drinking and driving. It's one thing to say, everybody's always wrong, everybody's what. Alcohol has a definite effect on people's judgment, a definite effect on people's behavior. So to consume something that has a definite effect on your behavior and your judgment while open carrying would just not be a good idea to me.
So everybody that has one beer, a glass of wine, casual, whatever they call that,
Well, the way I look at it,
they're that bad.
drinking, like I say, even just having one or two does have an effect on your judgment. And when you have an effect on your judgment, that means, hey, I might have one or two, and then my judgment might not be so good, might not be good enough to not have a third or a fourth, and that happens all the time. So I just wouldn't make that choice while I'm carrying a firearm, because there's never a circumstance where drinking is required or necessary. So you're not doing something. It's not like saying, like, well, I can't do something that is a normal part of my day that's necessary while carrying a gun. It's totally different. Drinking is never necessary. It is a completely, up to you to participate in it or not. It's not something you have to do in any way or form. So I think when you make a decision to engage in something that has a definite effect on your wherewithal to be a complete and whole, reasonable and rational person, and you make that decision while carrying a firearm, you've made a poor decision.
I think that maybe it's not, inherently it's not as terrible as it might be, but like right now when the perception of firearms owners and open carry is already, less than positive, I think that it doesn't do it any good.
All right. So getting past the public image, my personal rule, if you will, is one drink, and I have the discipline to only have one drink, and I'm okay with that. Your mileage may vary.
And the vast majority of people that have one or two drinks and carry a gun are never going to have a problem, which is why there shouldn't be a law that if you're drinking while you're carrying a gun, you're automatically guilty of a crime. Well, no, if you're carrying a gun and then you drink and then you misuse that gun, well, then you're guilty of a crime. And that's
Exactly.
great. It's great to have laws that state if you use your gun in self-defense and it was shown to be poor judgment and your judgment was affected by alcohol, then get you with a double whammy, put you away for 50 years for all I care, because you made a stupid decision and then paid the price for it. But if you've had one glass of wine, they shouldn't be able to say, well, you're potentially going to be a bad guy, so let's lock you up like you are one. No, until you have committed a crime, you don't get treated like one.
I agree with that, but what do y'all think about, I think that this leads into the discussion of like policing our own almost, where like we as a community look at the people who are doing stuff, and like what happened with those Chipotle people when they went in, like everyone freaked out. Like that was, like, what do y'all think about that? Do you think that people should, like, when they see someone drinking and behaving erratically
I
with a
think
gun,
that if we as gun owners condone, or whatever that's called, put our tails between our legs and agree with the people that are scolding us for living our lives and having a firearm at the same time, that we're contributing towards the dissolving of the individual spirit, and the people didn't give a crap about this back in the day because they didn't give a crap about this.
Well,
We've been engineered to start giving a crap about these things because it seems like everybody's got to be involved in everything everybody's always doing.
Well, some would disagree to a point, because I think self-policing is one of the greatest parts of society, and plus, I think it's a fallacy that people never gave a crap. Back in the old days, that a lot of people like to think existed, where they roamed the streets with 6-shooters. No, if you went into a bar or a pub, you had to surrender your firearm to the county sheriff and pick it up when you left town. You couldn't enter bars and pubs with, saloons, I guess you would call them, with your firearm strapped to your hip.
All right. So we had that then. So I'm going to put this out here. So when I'm in Oregon, I do have an Oregon concealed carry permit, and it is lawful in Oregon to open carry or conceal carry in a bar. Now, personally, I wouldn't open carry in a bar because I just don't think that's very smart. But I might go into a bar with a friend concealed carrying, and I might have a drink. But I have not heard of any major instances of lawful carriers having shootings. I've heard of shootings outside in parking lots, outside of bars, but I don't know that we can tie it into that same scenario.
Zero. I conceal carry into a bar in Portland all the time, and there's been zero incidences of a licensed concealed carrier in a bar misusing the firearm.
Right.
Oh yeah, and it was sold like it was going to be shootout at the OK Corral too, right? And that never happened. So, I mean, at least that's in our favor.
Right.
Now, I do believe in Oregon there's some pretty stiff penalties if you're caught intoxicated while in possession of a firearm. You go into a bar and you're actually drinking, and a police officer sees you, and they want to breathalyze you right there, and you've had 2 drinks, you easily fail a breathalyzer, and I think that's pretty stiff penalties.
I don't remember what the penalties were, but I think it can at least lead to revocation of your permit if you have one. But you do have to actually be intoxicated, not under the influence. Same thing in Washington. And Washington is very vague.
It's only got to be .08, and a few minutes after drinking, it's real easy to blow a .08 with 1 or even 2 drinks. So if they wanted to push it on you, and I think it does, and don't quote me on this, but I do believe that if they do it, if they want to, they can, because you're drinking while in possession, it can lead up to a felony possession of a firearm.
Your alcohol level totally has to do with your body weight and the amount of time that you've consumed it in. It takes you an hour to reach the peak of your first drink.
They have an actual charge.
Actually, the Boers scale, was it the Bowles scale? And it shows that the average person can reach their peak anywhere between 15 minutes and 45 minutes. Some people as far out as 4 or 5 hours, but that's very rare. But the Bowles chart actually is like a wave chart of how intoxicated you'll be, like how you can actually be more intoxicated an hour later after you get pulled over for drunk driving than you were when they actually pulled you over, kind of a thing. So.
Yeah, it's about how fast you metabolize the alcohol.
And the alcohol in your stomach can actually, it doesn't, the way it works, it gets in your bloodstream, gets in your saliva, gets, how much of it's in your breath when they breathe. So there are people that can blow a .08 on even a big fat guy can technically blow a .08 on a breathalyzer test just moments after drinking 2 drinks if it's the right circumstances. But you also have to remember too, if they see you in a bar and they see you drink 2 drinks and then they go, aha, we're going to arrest you, and then they want to wait 45 minutes to an hour before they get the warrant and have your blood tested, by then you could be maximum effectiveness of that alcohol and fail the test.
Right. Well, I just want to go back to the self-policing thing real quick. And I think the whole self-policing thing really goes towards the whole PR and like perception. But how do you do that then? Like what GeoWebs was talking about. How do you do that without people freaking out?
Let's look at least for me, the last time, the one that I see when I hear self-police, and I don't like it because I think of the open carry Texas people. Self-policing means we get out and we bitch publicly. Honestly, I'm not going to say we because I didn't do it, but the gun community at large gets up and bitches publicly along with the anti-gunners and gives the anti-gunners fuel that even the gun right people don't like open carry. Of course, they're going to edit it to whatever like I said, there's always going to be low-hanging fruit. So if we take it on ourselves to be the police of the low-hanging fruit, at what point do we stop trimming the tree, and have we just pruned our own tree and done the work for the anti-gunners for them?
Well, and at some point you have to let people live their own lives too. I mean, just because some guy is handling a rifle in a way that you don't appreciate doesn't mean you have the right to go up and tell him, to do it your way.
Well, it depends. If I'm at the range and I'm in danger, I'm definitely going to weigh in on it.
Well, that's a safety concern, and that's a completely different thing.
Because like when I'm at the gun rally and I have to tell people, could you please not point your shouldered firearm at my face? Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah.
All right. Well, obviously, you keep bringing that up, but then do we go to a car rally and go, can you please not put your foot on the gas and drive your car if I'm on the street with you at a parade?
If I'm at a car rally and some guy's doing 70 down a residential street, I will very easily go, hey, don't be doing 70 down a residential street.
And I see 70 in your scenario as being shooting a gun towards you. So, I mean, there's a difference between having something and being ready to use.
No,
there's a threshold. Again, there's a line where self-policing becomes us destroying ourselves.
No, I see a loaded firearm pointing at my face as a direct and imminent threat. And two, also, I'm not going to put myself in the intellectual, false position of having to say, anytime the opposition says something, I have to take the opposite position. Like if anti-gunners go, it's a bad idea to play
So
with
you're
firearms.
suggesting my position is simply to be belligerent? Come on.
I'm just saying.
Thanks for having no.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying your argument can very easily take into the point where you're saying we don't self-police, we don't give them any benefit. But if an anti-gunner says to me, I don't think you should handle firearms while smoking crack, I'm not going to necessarily take the position of, I'm pro-smoking crack and handling firearms. So we do have the right to still be reasonable and responsible, even if it agrees with the anti-gunners.
And I believe that my position is we have the right to allow individuals to be individuals until it infringes on the neighbor.
Exactly.
So you don't have to start giving them a list of what we can and can't do. You can simply say, don't hurt other people, and then be done with it.
You can ask them to move their rifle
You
from
don't
each
have
other.
to always, there's always still the whole philosophy that a stitch in time saves 9. So it is okay in my mindset to make some belligerently dangerous behaviors off limits. Like
Well, if it's truly a safety concern, then you're absolutely,
not okay
right to
say-
do that.
not okay to say you can fire a rifle into a schoolyard all you want until you hit somebody. We don't take things to that.
Yeah, who the hell said that, dude?
Nobody.
Nobody said that, and to
That's what I'm saying,
suggest
that's the
that put
principle.
those words in our mouth is insane.
But you still have the right. You cannot just say that it only becomes a crime when someone else is hurt. You're allowed to preemptively
Oh,
prevent.
come on. So, yeah, let's draw lines on the actual words I said in a live conversation. So, again...
Well, hold on. I think I'm lost because what was the... Well, no, when you say self-policing, I mean...
Well, Lee, you're the one who brought it up. What do you think when you're saying self-policing?
Well, from what I'm hearing between you and Yankee, I mean, you guys are obviously on the two polar ends of the extreme.
I wouldn't say that. I would say we're both pretty close to the middle. We're just on different sides of the middle.
Well, because when you compare, I mean, you're comparing apples and oranges. I don't think G-Web's in any way, shape, or form said that you could fire into a schoolyard and then it would become okay. I mean,
go ahead.
I was just thinking,
I'm sorry.
when you draw a line, I mean, I think as responsible citizens, we all have a obligation and a duty and the right to say something to someone else that may be doing something hazardous or potentially dangerous to the people around them.
Right.
But at what point? That's what I'm getting at. Like, where do you draw that line? And obviously, if you can compare extremes and give it, justification for doing so. So I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, G-Webs, you're saying that you don't think that at any point you should step in and kind of be the moderator or the mediator in a situation.
Thanks for helping clarify. I don't think that I am suggesting that an individual, so just let Luke use the example of if somebody's being unsafe at the range next to him, obviously, I'm not suggesting you be quiet then. I'm saying as a group, as a community of firearms owners, I think we need to worry about how to deal with anti-gunners and the perception of the public in the middle, not worry about how to, as a group, collectively decide what we should limit ourselves to before somebody else does it to us.
I don't think we're limiting ourselves for that. I think we, as the entire gun community, for the most part, we want we want movement in our direction. But
as long as we don't open carry long guns in a Chipotle.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that we can't.
As long as we don't drink a beer while we're carrying.
But if it's going to be detrimental towards the public, like a perception, then it's really not the best way to go about. Like, if those people wanted to,
it might be stupid. I agree, but I think that we as a community are better off to allow the stupid people in our group to remain stupid as long as they're not unsafe or unwise, and we deal with the anti-gunners or the people in the middle who who are up for grabs.
But we still have the right to step in when people are being stupid and unwise.
For sure.
I agree, but I don't think we should have
I don't think we have the right. We have
pillar of stuff is to tell people what they should do, what's cool or what.
I wouldn't even say it's the right. I think it's the responsibility
Obligation.
to point out to people when they're behaving poorly.
Yeah, we have a right to. We don't have to choose between being responsible and regulatory of our own behavior and etc. and fighting the anti-gunners. We don't have to pretend like they're polar opposites of each other. To me, they go hand in hand. The best way to fight the anti-gunners is to show we are reasonable.
Yeah.
Well, I think the best way to show that we're reasonable is by being reasonable, and worrying about the theoretical people that might not be is wasting our time. We only have X amount of time on the planet, each one of us, and why should we spend that devoted to eating our own?
I guess I wasn't looking to turn it into this debate. I just was looking
Why not?
in our group to come up with what seemed to be reasonable rules of conduct as a matter of topic, you know. So I think we've taken it to the next level, and maybe it's time to move on with something else.
Well, I think it's not.
And I don't know, I'm just going to take a second to say I'm not sure if the YouTube chat is working or not, but feel free to chime in.
Yeah. You
just said that. Yeah, we just said that. So the people that are on YouTube, chime in. Or wait.
What?
Sorry, I'm yelling at I'm yelling at my own video going in a delay. So I was just going to say the people on YouTube say something, because I don't know if the chat's broken out there. We're not trying to ignore you over there. Sorry for the technical issue there.
The people that are asking me if I'm open carrying today, since it's the second, no, I'm still in my robe. I haven't left the house.
Little Cyber Monday hangover.
Right. It's not directly related to it yet, but whenever I get my my 10 millimeters close to being mine, that Colt Gold Cup Delta Elite 10 millimeter is going to be heading my way pretty soon, and I will definitely have to open carry that on a second when I get the opportunity.
I was also working all day today, but I've been posting a series of videos that at the end of them I mention the address, the website, and then that we do these chats. So that's what I try to been doing. That's what I've been doing to further the cause.
I'm looking at actually getting some business cards made, and I think I want to put my One Bad Marine channel name on there and the Every Second Matters stuff, so I can hand them out to people. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure out a way to get some of those wristbands made, because I think that those wristbands can get people talking, and if I don't have them, they ain't going to help. So
do the Indiegogo like we're doing with the patches. It's I mean, you figure out what you need to get them, and then you know how much it's probably going to cost you to ship. Take out the charges, the fees,
right?
Like 30 cents on a dollar or something, and then like for the patches, it takes about 30 people to get an order going.
Do mag rubber bands instead.
And I need to do like an exit thing, like on my videos, like G-Webs does for his gun training courses and safety courses, etc. thing. I need to do something like that for Every Second Matters at the end of my videos.
See, I think something like that, just a little plug at the end, or just even showing the logo at the end, might get people to go, even if you didn't say anything. Just, I'm not saying just Yankee, but anybody who's a producer making videos out there, throw the logo up once in a while, and that'll get people going. I wonder what that logo was. I'll go type those words into the internet, and of course they'll find us.
I think I think I'm going to put it on the entry to my homepage, because I get a lot of transient people that come check out the homepage. And my intro video is that retarded video I shot when I first started, and it's retarded anyway, so it needs to be replaced.
Now I just have an image in my head that Luke is popular with homeless people.
Do you still have that that Every Second Matters? What was the mission statement video stuff, Luke?
I believe so.
The graphic that you made?
There's a graphic and a video and all that, and I think I put all that stuff on a disc and gave it to you. I can recreate it if you need it.
I definitely have the disc. I actually saw it the other day when I was going through some stuff. To be honest with you, I hadn't opened the package up yet because we got moved on.
Good point. Getting Every Second Matters neck tattoos. I think that's pretty classy.
Nice.
Yeah, I could do it just above the T-shirt line, but not on the neck.
And then every time you buy a gun, you put another little bullet tear on your face.
That sounds fun. Right on.
That'd be classic.
Do we have to X out the little teardrop or have it laser removed if we sell that gun?
Ooh, that's a good point.
Yeah, the teardrop would be a little bullet.
Yeah. Yankee would have his arm forever red as the guns came and went.
So usually when I open carry on the 2nd and every other day when my shirt goes above my gun, it's my Glock 30 or my Glock 19. That's what I did today, but I only went to the gas station and the convenience stores.
Yeah, the open carry thing during the winter is sort of hard with the weather.
Yeah, that's true. I want to talk about one thing that's going on in the gun channels chat right now about the people in the middle not caring, like if anti-gunners ban guns and stuff. I mean, I think that's like the biggest issue. Like, if those people really don't care about like anti-gunners banning guns, like even if they don't want to own guns and shoot guns, they shouldn't like. I feel like they shouldn't be for like things being banned just because they don't care about them and they don't. It's not part of their lives. Like the whole it doesn't affect me attitude.
Well, I think they
It's
do.
kind of hard to make people understand the freedom that they're losing, though, and that's the key is to advise them. You know, when you vote by not caring and not saying anything, that you're giving up a piece of your freedom too.
Well, I think they do to a degree because we see that every time that big anti-gun legislation comes along, the vast majority of people stand up and go, nope, not unless there's a reason for it. So I do think they care. I think that they just don't think about it every day and they don't notice the small stuff.
Well, that's a prime example for that initiative that just passed. What I'm going to call undereducated voters passed that law because 10% of the people voted both for our, don't give us any more rules initiative and the other one. So that 10% was the one that it was literally 10% that made the threshold to pass the initiative because they weren't educated. They didn't really know, And I guess we have to give it to Bloomberg and his cronies because they put out a good ad campaign that had them thoroughly convinced that it was going to stop criminals from getting guns from online, and that's what they thought they were voting for.
What they did is they pulled the same story that when the federal background check failed, that there was plenty of advertising and talk going on about how this was a bad thing, and they lost it federally. So now what Bloomberg and his cronies have decided to do is take it on a state-by-state level, and push their message hard, and so here we are.
I also think we're fighting the problem is right now the vast majority of people do not have a problem with background checks. So if they see the law as just being a background check, they got no problem with that.
Absolutely, it's a common sense law, and I mean.
Well, and that tells us. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. I mean, it's a common sense law, and I've talked to so many people about it, and honestly, even. I mean, I understand the statistics behind it. I understand that really background checks aren't going to make a difference one way or the other. As far as the criminal element that use firearms in gun crime, but the average citizen, they don't understand that, and so there's no reason why a background check is that's not an
And I'm not going to say background checks don't work because I have, and I'm sure you have in law enforcement, known all kinds of bad guys that are like, God damn it, if only it wasn't for background checks, I'd buy me a gun. So the background checks, I think they work more as a security camera deterrent, more of a, well, I can't break into that house because it has security cameras, and it works in the same way of saying, well, I can't buy a gun because that's stupid background.
Right, to a certain extent, but and that's where it's kind of a split because like me, on one hand, I would like to say I'm all for background checks because just for that reason, because it does deter a small percentage, and
very small.
And it's kind of one of those things. It's like it's not really that big a deal, but then when you look at it from the broader picture of like them chipping away at our rights, that's where I think we really have to stand back and go. It's more on the principle of the situation versus the legitimate statistics that are going to make a difference.
I don't have a problem with background checks from one standpoint. It's a punishment for people that have done something wrong. If you've committed a felony crime, a violent crime, etc., you are punished. You lose your rights, and therefore I don't mind background checks to see, are you someone that has committed a crime and you don't have the right to buy a gun? That's punishment.
Well, what about this? For those that can't have their gun rights, why don't you give them a little tattoo, and if they get caught one time with the gun after they get that little tattoo, then they're in life for prison. No
tattoos are
past school. So now you're punishing the people that really need to be punished instead of the people that are law-abiding.
How are you being punished if it's free to you and it is serving a purpose? It's permitting the people that are being.
I'll put it this way, Yankee. In our state, they're using it for a de facto handgun registration.
But that's a different.
Yeah.
That's a different argument. That's not the same
Well-
argument. You can't argue against. You can't argue against beans because the ozone layer is being damaged by flatulence.
Well,
You have
the whole thing about the background check, I heard a stat. It was that like out of 20,000 gun registrations, that they caught 139 people trying to buy a gun that had a record that would preclude them from being able to. And so
No, it's lower than that.
You're probably right.
given it
What
best.
I'm saying is that in the grand scheme of things, they're gonna push this and make it seem like we're gonna stop all kinds of people when in fact they catch a very, very small percentage and then they don't prosecute them.
Well, that's the
Okay.
whole thing. There was only 8
Wow.
people prosecuted federally last year that knowingly tried to get a firearm with the record.
But like I
These
said,
people there was 20,000 ones where they rejected it, but they never went after those people.
Those
So
people
is it that big of a deterrent?
I mean, you're not usually denied for a prosecutable reason. It's not illegal to try to buy a firearm if you've got a felony. It's just illegal to buy one. If you've got a felony record and you go down and go like, I'm going to give it a shot, you haven't committed a real crime, a prosecutable crime. It's just a crime to actually buy it.
I would argue that you are because you're knowingly trying to purchase a firearm.
You
That's
have
the way they look at it.
not committed a crime until you actually buy the gun. So
And
and that's fine with me. I don't want them prosecuting people just because they have a felony record and they didn't remember it or whatever and went in and got it, etc. Or they're just too stupid to realize they can't buy a gun. But it's not just the people that they catch or the people that they prosecute. Like I say, there is that preemptive quality of it that it lets people know, hey, you've committed a felony. When you get out, don't bother trying to buy a gun because you'll get caught. So there is
Well,
that.
one of the things that they're looking at doing here, in Oregon, to modeled somewhat after I-594, one of the things that they want to try to do is share information between the feds and the local and county law enforcement. And so, if you're going to background check people, at least go after the ones that try it. Right? Otherwise, the whole thing falls apart. So, I mean, that's something that they're looking at doing, and
I don't agree with prosecuting someone just because they try to buy a gun and they've got a felony record. Because, like I said, they could have forgotten they had that type of record. They could not have even known that their record charge was a felony. They could have thought it was a misdemeanor. They could just not be smart enough
Right.
to know that they're not supposed to try to buy a gun. They can
Plus,
go
it's like in this country, it seems like buying a firearms is such like to some people who have no experience with it, they don't understand what the criteria is. Like my friend didn't think that he could buy a firearm just because of like some stuff that happened when he was younger, but he was obviously good to go. And so, like, those people shouldn't be punished.
Didn't they write the law messed up in Washington a little, so it's vague and you don't know everything,
well, it's,
or is it?
if you're a lawyer, you don't know everything, but it isn't all that vague.
well, and Guru brings up a good point. That it's a crime to knowingly misrepresent yourself on a 4473.
But like I'm saying, knowingly is the key. Some people don't know their charges were a felony. Someone don't know their felony charges are still in effect. Some people think that their records have been expunged. Some people just don't even know the law. So
Officer, I didn't know the speed limit wasn't 70.
there's difference. There's different levels of law. Not knowing the speed limit is completely different of willingly and knowingly committing a crime. There's two different levels. It's like when you bring up, like, say, this guy Darren Wilson in Ferguson. For the federal case to be brought against him, they would have to show that he not only did something wrong, but he did so knowingly, willfully, and with intent to commit a crime. That's the part. When you lie on those forms, they have to be prosecutable. They have to show that you willingly, knowingly, and with intent did so.
And now, you guys in the state of Washington have to pay to transfer even long guns to each other, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's like there's a fee attached to that.
Even if there was no fee, though, it's still an unnecessary, like,
My FFL charge is $35.
yeah. And the same people who are for universal background checks are against, like, NSA spying and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
people put in the chat.
Like I was going to say earlier, people are for background checks, and those are the reasons that I gave why most people are for them. But here's the thing, they don't go the extra step. They don't go and say, okay, I'm all right with background checks, but will it actually solve the problem without removing any freedom? And if you can't say yes to both of those, that it will solve, if you can't say yes to the fact that it will solve a problem, then you shouldn't be for removing a freedom. But a lot of people just go, whether it'll work or not, it's nothing bad. Well,
that was kind of the message that the feds got, the Congress or whatever got back in 2013.
Well, their whole advertising campaign in Washington this year, literally, they had radio and TV ads that said, it won't solve the problem, but it'll do something. And people were like, yeah, it's just a background check. It's not hurting anybody. It maybe won't solve the problem, but it won't hurt.
Yeah. Well, I don't agree. I don't think there's anybody that's for background checks at all. I think except for some anti-gun people. There's people in the middle that don't care, and like Yankee just said, they just don't care. So when somebody approaches them with something that sounds like common sense, as DB likes to say, then they're going to say, sure, why not? It doesn't seem like it's hurting anybody. It seems like it's a positive thing. So it's our bad for just letting that abuse happen or letting that bullshit get said without any kind of rebuttal. So what we need to be doing, I think, is talking about how we can, as a group, not just as an individual group, but as a group of gun owners, how we can explain to the general public in an efficient way why background checks are detrimental.
Yeah, and it doesn't come down to just screaming, shall not be infringed, and waving a Gadsden flag. It comes down to sitting down, having a dialogue, being reasonable, and saying, okay, what's the problem we're trying to solve, and will this solve the problem? Because people are going to be a lot more receptive to, I guess it doesn't solve any problem.
I'm gonna weigh in and say it has to come down to the pocketbook, because in our little battle of the initiatives between the NRA and private donations, we spent $1 million. Bloomberg and his cronies spent $10 million and had way more TV ads. They won by having their misleading TV ads outplay us. So, I mean...
And, well, the thing is, here's the problem. Their misleading ads weren't even misleading. To try and say that, the other side lied to everybody, they didn't. They were even running ads saying, these laws won't really solve the problem, but they'll do something. That was their slogan. They'll do something.
Yeah, it made them sound so much more reasonable.
All the ads that I saw made it sound like you could go online and buy a private sale firearm and have it delivered to you, which is totally not what can happen. Yes, you can make connection with another private party seller, but you can't just go online and get somebody to send you a gun if you're a criminal, and that's how they represented it, and that's why they got it through.
Actually, you can. Inside the state lines, you can just mail a gun to somebody. As long as it doesn't cross state lines. A lot of states, it's legal to do that in. Oregon's one.
Yeah, but how many people are mailing guns inside the state?
They're not saying it's happening, and like I said, they didn't misrepresent any numbers. They didn't say we're going to catch tens of thousands of criminals. They even said this probably won't solve the problem, probably won't catch very many people, but it'll do something.
So how do you fight that, Yankee? What would
fight that with these laws that they keep bringing up in these different states should have sunset periods to where they're analyzed over a certain period of time.
Yeah, that used to be a more common practice nowadays.
Okay, but that's like after the thing goes. I think that's a great idea, but that's like after it already goes into effect. I think. How do you fight it against it to go into effect?
I don't think you can. I don't think.
Well, in our state,
it's a good argument for themselves. I mean, everybody's right. Everybody agrees, or like for the most people on the fence, they agree with background checks. It sounds like common sense to them.
It's like when you see those polls about, do you think we need more gun laws? The vast majority of people say no, but the vast majority of the people, an even bigger majority of people, actually also say enforce the laws we have. They agree with the laws we have. So we have to deal with the fact that we have a majority population that agrees with what they consider common sense gun laws. Now, they have not thought it through to where is it really as common sense as it sounds, but that doesn't change the fact that to them it's a common sense gun law.
Well, I mean, I guess the only choice then is to poke as many holes in their argument as you can and try to influence as many people as you can.
Don't you
Pretty
think
much what they're having an easier time of it just with the tack that they're taking, right? But
like I said, they have public opinion on their side, and like I said, that's where I said it comes into you can't just start screaming "shall not be infringed," spitting chewing tobacco around, waving a Gadsden flag, or you're not going to win that argument. It's just going to get worse. You have to start taking it the other step. We have to start saying, okay, you think this law is common sense. Well, let's sit down and look at the real world application of this law. Will the will this law really not hurt anybody, or does it actually hurt some people? And does it
Or
actually
does it just create a bigger bureaucracy?
exactly? Does it do more harm than good? Because people aren't bothering. There's no dialogue existing, so people aren't bothering to sit down and go to the next step of deciding, well, is this common sense really common sense? Because there's no dialogue. So they're just getting one side and the other and then just making a decision. If there was more dialogue, maybe they would take that thought process to the next, level.
What we need is some white knights with deep pockets. That's what we need.
Yeah, the Koch
Ad-
brothers
ad-
only
ad
had so much
campaign
money in
for
their
ad
war
campaign.
chest.
Brad Pitt will save us.
Yeah.
Well, the Koch brothers aren't sending any money on the pro-gun side either, so
I know, I was just sort of being facetious.
they want their working class people unarmed and helpless just as much as the other side does.
No
That could
pro-gun
be true.
really out there. Vocal anyway.
But that being said, if the NRA was really able to capitalize on unifying the 5 million some odd members they had, it would have only cost $2 a member, with the quick mail out, if everybody participated, to have had the war chest to fight that legislation in our state. So maybe we need to
Yeah, I
be
don't
talking to the NRA about trying to.
hard on the NRA about that.
something.
The NRA,
I'm not being hard. I'm not even bashing. I'm just saying if we had a tool within the NRA to do that, it wouldn't have taken much.
Here's the thing, though. The NRA knew that was a losing battle. They knew that it's going to pass. They knew from the beginning. It is worded in a way that it doesn't seem like it harms anybody. It's written in a way to appeal to the vast majority opinion that background checks are okay as long as they don't become obtrusive and prevent law-abiding citizens from owning guns. So the NRA knew that any money they threw into this fight was just going to be money they threw away.
Well, and probably keeping their powder dry, so to speak, for the court battles that are sure to come, right?
Yes, that's part of it too.
And I do think they spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million, so it wasn't like they didn't help us out at all. So don't get me as a NRA basher. Just that's the one biggest coalition we have to go to for a money pool, and it would have been nice if we could have utilized it better.
It's spread pretty thin throughout the country, fighting other battles. So that's the problem. There's just not enough.
Well, here, I'll put it this way: if I knew New York, if every one of the NRA members donated $10 and they could get their SAFE Act repealed, I'd give the $10 up without even thinking about it. So maybe it's more of a mechanism about putting a price tag on thing and giving us the option of trying to go at it. You know what I'm saying?
So maybe, along with that, talking to people about every second matters and so on, providing some information for local gun rights organizations, is, as well as the NRA, is maybe a good fit, right?
Yeah.
If you've got somebody that's interested and they join up and spend a few bucks, then there's your advertising money right there, or legal fees, whatever the case is. I'm just looking for ways to fight this impending doom in Oregon, because it's going to happen, right? It's Washington, Oregon, California is kind of going the other way, but they're still hosed, and that plague is going to spread, man, from the West Coast to the East Coast. I can just see it. They're not going to stop. They're going after it on a state-by-state, local basis, right? They failed at the federal level.
I belong to
Spread very thin, and you have to remember too, the NRA it's appealing very well to its base right now, but it's appealing to a base that's dying. I mean, look at most young gunners. I mean, and those of us that have YouTube channels that deal with a lot of younger people, and my channel for some reason attracts a lot of first-time gun owners, a lot of new shooters, a lot of new gun owners, and they have a very negative opinion of the NRA. It's a bunch of old conservative white guys, and that's what they think of it. And it's appealing greatly to its 10% of the population. It's what, 3.12 million. I saw the last real estimate on their membership, and that's great, appealing to its base of old conservative white guys. But unless new blood starts coming, it's facing the same problem that the Republican Party is right now. If it doesn't,
I'll agree with that.
Well,
But
think about this
that,
for a second too. Who does this background check thing really hurt the most, right? And who are the segment of the gun owning population that are more, kind of middle of the road? That would be hunters, right?
it doesn't affect. I'll be
guns to each other and trade and all of that, if those guys would kind of join forces with the rest of us.
I disagree because I don't think it hurts guys like that. It does not hurt me.
Your average hunter isn't buying guns all the time. He's got 1 or 2 guns.
Even guys like me that buy guns quite a bit. It does not hurt the middle class, middle-aged white guy. It doesn't hurt me at all. This law does not harm me.
Well, let's look at how it affects you, though. So let's say you ran up towards Seattle one day to meet up with a guy to get a gun. So now you have to go meet up with the guy, pay him. The gun has to be put with an FFL. It has to have an 8-day cool off or whatever. Then you have to go back and get the gun. So to say it doesn't affect you, I think is a little untoward. It might make you stay closer to home, you know.
I think that people say that it doesn't hurt them, and that they think that that's like something that people should be willing to do for the greater good. I think that's the whole narrative that they push.
I don't think I'm saying that at all. I'm saying that it doesn't really affect me. I buy, if I buy a gun, I don't mind going to the local dealer. I don't mind showing my concealed carry permit so that I don't have to do the cooling off period. And I don't mind, because that doesn't affect me. I've got a concealed carry permit. I've got the time to go to the dealer. I've got the money to pay the extra.
Where in the law does it give an exemption for concealed carry permit holders for?
Right in there, unless you're a holder of a concealed carry license in the state of Washington. So it says this subset does not apply if, and it lists like 3 things, and one of them is if you are a concealed carry holder in the state of Washington.
Yeah, I haven't read it cover to cover, so I need to go read it. But that's encouraging for me, anyways.
I'm pretty sure that applied to the cooling off period. Now, like I say, don't quote me word for word on this law because I haven't bought a gun since a used gun in a while, and I want to wait and see after December 4th what happens. If I try to buy a used gun, we'll see.
There's confusion already with the dealers because in 2 days the law goes into effect. And they're trying to figure out if they have to charge sales tax on the transaction because
they've been told
it says use tax, and a use tax is not sales tax, but it still has to be collected.
That's their fault. Use tax is not collected on firearms, so they are not bound to collect use tax. The use tax law does not apply to used firearms by law itself, and they have been specifically told that they do not have to collect any taxes. So if they're not sure on that yet, that's the dealer's problem because they've been told. But I think the thing that a lot of dealers are confused on right now is I've talked to like 4 or 5 different dealers, and like 2 or 3 of them think that they do have to hold the gun for 8 days regardless, and 2 or 3 of them go, nope, that doesn't apply if you have a concealed carry permit. So that's where I think the biggest confusion is going to occur. So we'll have to wait and see.
Well, it sounds to me like there's plenty of parts of 594 that will more than likely either get modified or lose in court. So, I mean, if that's your only real remedy to a crappy law, right?
We need an every second matters topic to bring it around because I'd love to talk all night about 594, but this is really supposed to be.
I mean, this is very Second Amendment related, and that's what this every second matters is about. Is about the Second Amendment. And
all right, as long as everybody's in agreement.
And like I said,
well, there's that, and just the general idea that their tack now is to basically do it at the state and local level.
Yeah, and like I say, the NRA is starting to become a toothless dinosaur, and we can't just rely on the NRA to storm in and fight our battles for us every time we have a problem. And
so that being said, so what about like NAGR or Second Amendment Foundation? Do you think there's another group that's doing a better job that we could migrate a lot of these people over to?
If they're going local to bring this against us, then we should go local to fight back at them because they're the best people for the job, the people that know.
Yeah, it's your only choice, right? And so your local gun rights organizations, obviously, I know I'm going to be pulling some stuff together because I kind of like Oregon's gun laws. I don't want to see them change.
If they're after your state,
I just got an email from Oregon Firearms Federation, and that same bill that we got in our lap, they're running through collecting signatures to put it in your lap for the next voting cycle, just so you know.
I hate to break it to you.
I know.
You will have that law 1 year from today. I guarantee.
I agree. I know, and they probably do it in the legislature, and so our best hope is to force it to a vote. But is that going to happen? I don't know.
Well, they gained the extra seat on the blue side or at least the anti-gun side, because we had one blue person that wasn't anti-gun in Oregon. But yeah, you're getting it one way or the other.
Yeah, I know. I guarantee you're getting it. And here's the thing, like I said, that we can't rely on the middle class white guy to fight it, because the middle class white guy, you're going to find a lot of them that are going to say, doesn't hurt me. One, a lot of them are going to say, I don't buy used guns, period. I buy my guns at a store, and I don't mind filling out the form. And a lot of the ones that do buy used guns will be like, I kind of like going to a gun shop and doing it. It gives a gun shop business, gives them a little bit of money, and I'm sure I'm buying a good gun. So, that middle-aged white guy syndrome is we're usually pretty okay with we're the kind of guys that buy lots of extra insurance. We don't mind taking extra steps to make sure we're safe. So it's not going to be won or lost on counting on the people like that are in the NRA, like the white middle-class hunters, and the guys like me, and we're not going to be the ones that win this battle. So we're going to have to.
So your only real arguments are: is it a good law to begin with, and what about the inconvenience and the extra costs and all of those things, and what about the extra bureaucracy, and that's really the only argument that's left.
Yeah, there's not much of an argument left against it.
But then if it looks hopeless, you can also pressure your legislature to put in preemptive things like exemptions for inheritance and
yeah, but here's the thing.
Oregon isn't purple.
We're fighting majority opinion. Legislators will not go against majority opinion, because going against majority opinion
not majority opinion.
On their ass. It is. I mean, every poll
you get everybody to fight.
In Oregon, it might be G-Webs just because they're so progressive.
Well, it's not even in Oregon. It's wide. If you look at all the big gun polls done, I will say always, the vast majority of people say, enforce the laws we have now. So they're okay with things like background checks and stuff. So we are fighting that it is the majority.
No, just because someone is asked on a thing and they fill in the dot next to the thing that is an answer doesn't mean that you can then say that they're also not opposed to removal of laws.
Go to any gun forum and go to our own videos that we've done on the subjects, and you'll find that even in the gun community, it comes back a little bit on the split of side that most of guys are okay with the background check.
No. Some people are, sure. I'll give you that, but not majority. There's no way you can say that. And then we're not out of defenses or out of ways to defeat it, because we can take it right to their court and the same tactics they use for everything. Number one, it's our choice. Why are they taking away our choice? Number two, poor people. Why are they regulating this away from the people who need these things? Yeah, adding regulation, adding time, adding travel, adding cost are all going to be a detriment to poor people who need these access to firearms.
The last Gallup poll in 2014 showed 85% of people felt that gun laws should be kept as they are now or be made more strict. That's 85%.
You can cite them and you can point to them, and I'm never going to agree, because we all know that statistics are nothing more than something that you can use to justify a position. It's all about how they're written, and if there weren't pro-gun people writing it, then I'm not going to agree with it, and if it was pro-gun people, nobody else is going to agree with it. So we're never going to agree on a bunch of garbage polls.
This is just a general question. In general, do you feel gun laws covering the sales of firearms should be more strict, less strict, or kept as they are now? That's the simple question. And it was a blind poll, and when you repeat a blind poll, one of the key elements of science that makes something scientific is if the result is repeatable and verifiable. Every time they ask this question, the result is repeatable and verifiable. So it is a fairly scientific number. It's not just a random one-time poll. It is a trend. And when something is a trend, we have to address it as it's something we have to address, because it's probably pretty legit. And right now, it's legit that most people are okay with a simple background check.
But just because they're okay with it doesn't make it okay.
It doesn't mean they're against it either.
That's the point. We have to start going that extra step and saying, okay, well, you're okay with this, but why are you okay with it? Do you think it's actually solving a problem? And let's look at it scientifically. Does it address the problem? And if it doesn't, then
I think looking at one of these Gallup polls that was linked in the external, the more strict side does edge out the others, but it's trending down. So at least that's in our favor.
Here's the Gallup list. I just put it in the side chat here. A list to a comprehensive list of all the recent Gallup polls on guns. It just lists them all on one page. And it actually isn't.
That's the one I was looking at.
It's actually higher now than it was in 2010. So it trended up.
Still trending down though. It trended higher after Sandy Hook, obviously. I mean, that's the bump in the poll.
This is from 1990. In 1990, it was only 2% of people felt gun laws were too strict. Now it's 14%.
SOS guy makes another valid point that gun control is started by racists to be, anti-poor people and colored people having firearms. So shedding light on the fact that these things, without pointing to Hitler, shining light on the fact that these things are designed to control a population, I think would also go a long way towards waking people up to the fact that there's constant common sense crap.
Yeah, that's a very good point. They all have racist roots, and there's two ways that can go though. Once again, that can cause, middle-aged white guys like me to be like, well, who cares? I'm not a minority. And then again, it can also be used very effectively if you play on people's white guilt, especially the that 25 to 40-year-old crowd playing on that white guilt.
That is a good point. I mean, you don't want to harp on that too much, though, because then you get accused of pulling the race card, and you know where that goes. So, but still, it's a valid point. I like where this is going. At least try to find some ammo, and just a question of making it coherent, and I guess getting the money in the advertising. That's really the issue.
What about for the environment? If we went after racetracks and golf courses use all that extra water and all that maintenance time, and just so that elite white people or whatever can play golf out there, and then racetracks are, again, for people that have extra time to go and spend a ticket to watch a bunch of cars race around and destroy the environment. These are things that could easily be fought against. It's just that they get an easy target because we sit around bitching about little shit, fragmenting ourselves and not working together, and we sit back. It looks like 2013 happened. We all got together, and then we all sit back, have a sigh of relief, buy some guns, and go off and do our own things. So I think that having these discussions like this is, a legitimate way to keep that little whisper going that, hey, we got to be defensive about this stuff. We have to be vigilant against the attacks. These are attacks coming from the other side, and
well. So I'm also going to sort of put out there, I'm not going to make a formal announcement about who else is doing it, but the whole thought process behind trying to start initiatives or other legislation to repeal the laws we have and put them on the defense instead of the offense. Because I think if we could get some traction going that way, we could at least hold their forward movement.
They don't have time then to come after us over petty garbage and the next low-hanging fruit.
Right.
So diversionary tactics then.
Well, you can call it diversionary.
No,
I think it's very productive because if we can use that same low-information voter and hand them something that says, hey, look, we got the stats here that show these laws that they've had us under forever aren't doing any good. If you just check here, we can get rid of them, and we can get those people to do it, then holy cow, now they've lost not one step back, they went 10 steps back because we repealed 10 laws that to their one they're trying to pass.
Yeah, I saw someone the other day was talking about the most success they've had in anti-gun legislation, repealing things in their state. I forget what state he said he was from, but I think it was I want to say it was Ohio or Florida, one of the others. But they would do it under the headline of, there's too much government interference in our lives, and the gun stuff was just like one element of the bills they were proposing. Like, these are some of the things we're getting rid of. And when it was under the guise of there's too much government interference in our lives, people were more than willing to go, yeah, and the gun laws is one of the things they're doing, and pass this legislation. So you have to also be clever in your marketing, just like they're clever in their marketing.
I'm all for
why
that.
don't we hire people to do the marketing? People that get paid lots of money to go to school to learn how people's brains work and how groups and societies accept information, and why don't we use that to our advantage instead of letting them do it, and we sit over here going, blah, blah, blah. Like, we either, like you say, gather behind the flag, or the Gadsden flag, or we, go to the tyranny against government, which are 100% valid, but they're not effective communication with people that don't give a shit about that stuff. We should be hiring people that are good at selling Coke and Pepsi or whatever, and let them do the job that we know is right, but we're not savvy at getting across.
Because if they put together the campaign, we've got the new media, if you will, to get it out there. Well, we need to have a unifying message that resonates with people that aren't our ilk.
And that's
I'm
what.
glad you qualified that with the and Pepsi. Gee.
Yeah, because I think that's what the things that.
Hey, if we get Coke dealers on our side, they'll work twice as fast.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that
Sorry,
NRAs will
that's the
have.
Coke user. Sorry.
I think it's going to have to evolve into a slick PR machine instead of an old guys hunting club. And it's still got too much of that old guys hunting club element to it.
Where? Come on.
Still
I
that-
understand what you're saying, but where anymore?
I know
It's
we'll be
2014.
There, I think we've
The
all.
NRA is Colion
I
Noir.
was just at the NRA dinner, and I'm just bought my tickets to go to the other NRA banquet here in Vancouver, and it is kind of an old guys, old white guy hunter club. And
Okay, well, if you're talking about the guys who actually pay a lot of money to get up and go eat weird buffet food to pat themselves on the back, okay, fine. Those guys are used to going to civic organizations and community things, fine. But millennials, they're used to going into chat rooms like this, putting headphones on their head and playing video games while they talk about topics, right?
I'm going to say
So
that
I'm going to say that you said that we're going that's old man hunting club. I'm just saying we got Colion Noir in the NRA. We got YouTube channels popping up all over the place from every form of
that's a
or
perfect
every aspect of society. I say that's
right there. What
vastly
you said.
becoming old-fashioned.
That right there, what you said, that's a perfect example. We have Colin Noir for the NRA, and what happened when they started pushing him really hard? They backed off really fast.
Whatever. So it wasn't a success. So their first time out had to be a success, or else
I'm
we're still in the
saying
dark
that was
ages.
the
Come on, I'm saying that
That
at
was
least
the
they're
thing.
trying. At least
No,
they're doing
no,
something
no,
different. They got
no.
all the girls and all kinds of
They're
stuff.
not paying attention to the point. The point was they pushed him. It did not resonate well with their base members, and there's a reason why it didn't resonate well with their base members. Their base membership is not majority millennials, and we need to get it to where there are more millennials.
Well, what we need to look at is we picked up, presumably by the numbers that I've heard, 7 million new gun owners when Obama got elected, or in that period shortly after he got elected.
Very
Those
iffy.
people are most likely millennials, like you're talking about. So how do we get them coalesced?
Actually, if you speak to a gun manufacturer or a distributor right now, they'll tell you those numbers are total bullshit. But
Well, I can only go by what I heard.
so we have to go by. So we have to figure out a way to get more millennials interested in things like the NRA or the GOA or etc.
NAGR or somebody.
Because it's like I say, my generation and my socioeconomic group, we are not going to win the fight. We have to have the aid of the younger people and the hipper people and the more savvy people, or we're doomed, and we have to start getting them in.
And
Well,
we
and
see those people popping up all the time. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to walk on you.
I was just going to reiterate the point that the millennials actually are predominantly pro less government. At least the ones that I know, my son's age, my daughter's age. You know,
And there's a passel of young gun owners that are becoming people that even came from families that don't have guns that are once they're of age are getting guns, but we got to find a way to unify them.
And we also have to deal with the fact there is a whole large swath of that generation that is, hey, as long as I keep the lines short, I don't care who runs the business. Yeah.
Well, there is that. Well, I think that we got a lot of good information. I mean, as far as for individuals and deciding how you want to relate with the public and whatnot, it's pretty easy to pull together information with regard to this and make a fairly sound argument against these kind of stupid laws. So I'll have to see how that goes. But
I thought the NRA had a pretty good ad campaign going in 2013. They had like 7 different ads or something, but then one of them was mentioned Obama's kids, and then everybody jumped on their back.
Yep, they crossed the line, and they, like I said, they were not tempered by the modern mentality. They let their old world thinking get, ahead of them, and they said something that anybody.
I thought it was a good point, though. I mean, if
anybody that's in tune with today's society would know that was crossing a line, and they did. So it was. That's the thing. That's about
more like.
So I just sort of want to do an informal poll. So I rather frequently get calls from the NRA by paid marketers trying to solicit more money from me. So the NRA is using my money to try and get more of my money, which I'd give them money if they're using it well, but is anybody else bothered by that? That they're taking your money to try and solicit more money from you? without
I
a very
understand that it's
specific
frustrating.
way to go.
Although you do have the option to opt out, and if it didn't work, they wouldn't do it. So it means that there's plenty of people out there with extra money, or at least what they perceive as their extra money, and they're willing to give it to the NRA when they call. And that's one of the things the NRA does is use that money, right? So I understand, but I mean, what are they going to do? Not ask for money?
Yeah, I can't say too much against it either because I'm one of these people that like, oh yeah, if you come up to me and remind me to give you something, I'll give it to you gladly. If you don't remind me, I'm not gonna think about it.
I mean, if they called you and then you said, please don't call me, and they called you back and they used to be kind of annoying about it, okay, well, back when they were desperate during the ban, you know, they kind of did that stuff. But you know what? I guess you kind of want them to be desperate and bug people, you know, when there's a desperate situation. Now, we're not, hopefully not as desperate as we were then, but I definitely agree with you that if they did a campaign that said, throw $2 against Bloomberg, one for the fees it's going to take to get the dollar to us, and then the actual dollar, so that we can throw this head-to-head against Bloomberg, that'd be awesome. I'm not going to make them do it or ask them to do it, but they definitely are the size to do it. But I think you said something about getting the millennials in the NRA. I mean, if this is off topic, we don't have to go down this path, but what about the idea of getting something new up there that isn't the?
Well, that's
NRA,
what I'm saying.
All the bad.
I just said get them to coalesce. It could be the NAGR. It could be Gun Owners of America. I don't know what the better option is.
It can't be that one because they named it a horrible acronym.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. That's what I don't.
It might have to be something totally new. It might have to be, you know, hipsters for guns or whatever you call it. But it's got to have something.
The Steampunk Gun Owners Association or something. I don't know.
Exactly. It's got to be done. And I want to address one thing. I got an email from G Brown 317, and he's talking about how he gets tired of watching us sit around and talk all the time, and how we don't do anything. I hate to break it to you, but probably 2 or 3 of the people in this chat room right now together reach millions of people a month, and we spend our own time talking about things that we think are important to the gun community. We spend our time doing things for the gun community. We promote training. We promote, all kinds of common sense stuff. We go out to rallies and try to participate. So just because you sit and you bitch doesn't mean all you're doing is sitting bitching, especially people that are spending their own hard-earned money to buy products or view products and spending their own hard-earned time to put a message forward on their YouTube channels, etc. Then start looking at what you're doing. So if you want to question what I'm doing or what G-Webs are doing, question what you're doing first.
Well, I mean, just look at the fact that
Are we supposed to do this in the dark? Are we not supposed to recon with each other once in a while and keep our fingers on the pulse of what's happening?
He must get something from it, otherwise he wouldn't be sitting here watching. So I
don't think that he meant it in that connotation. However, I believe he's saying that we're basically preaching to the choir, which is probably true to this because we're talking
we got to get the
YouTube,
choir.
But when we're talking about gun
choir
channels,
organized
because gun people.
We got to get the choir organized because if we make a good song, then it's going to go viral and people will listen to it. So you know.
Remember, gun owners are like fucking herding cats. We all are so diverse.
So let's laugh for that first. Okay, go ahead.
You don't whip us back into the line every now and then. We are, like I said, it's such a diverse group. That's why I think they like to portray gun owners as, they're all these right-wing conservative white nut jobs. Well, no, we are so diverse of a group that unless someone is blowing the rally horn every couple of weeks, we wander off in our own directions. We lag behind.
So
we gotta get Ted Nugent to do some charity concerts.
I'm going to bring up something that we touch on once in a blue moon, but we don't talk about very much. And I'm probably just as guilty or more guilty of it than some others. But we've established this mantra that all Democrats are anti-gun, and not all Democrats are anti-gun. And I think that we're pushing probably large portions of groups away from us when we label it that way for the blue closet gun owners that might participate if we weren't, the Democrats are evil all the time. I don't know if you guys want to discuss that further, but we do have a pretty good tendency to do that.
I've never said Democrats are bad. I would say the people that are anti-gun are bad.
Right. Well, I have a tendency to tie it into the blue wardrobe because it seems their party helps move the legislation, but it's not all Democrats. There's plenty of Democratic gun owners that probably wouldn't hang out with us just because we slam Democrats all the time. That's sort of what I'm trying to point out.
Bloomberg a Republican?
I hear you, but I'm just saying I don't remember the last time anybody slammed a Democrat for being a Democrat. Seriously. I mean, that might be your perception, but
I
it's
think
not
we're
mine.
trying. I think we've all consciously been trying to get away from that. And plus, isn't like Bloomberg a Republican?
We just
If he
had
is, he's the
two.
biggest rhino on the planet.
We
Well,
just had two
you can say
Democrats.
rhino, but you can say rhino, but that doesn't hold a lot of water if the Republican Party isn't doing anything to counter him. Seems to me like
That's
they're
true.
okay with him doing what he's doing because they aren't doing anything to stop him.
Yeah. I guess the mantra would be, let's take the politics out of it and just keep it anti-gunners versus pro-gunners, I guess. I
Keep
don't know.
freedom issue. Keep it a freedom issue.
Right.
Yeah, but it's like I say, a lot of the younger people I know in Portland and stuff, one of the problems that they have with a lot of gun groups is they get too involved in other politics, and they're like, well, I can't support a guy that I would otherwise agree with on gun rights if he's also telling me that women can't get abortions and gay people shouldn't be allowed to get married, etc. They're like, I have to just disregard him completely.
Right. We need to be a sort of a one-issue voter, if you will, in this context.
That's kind of where the Gun Owners of America kind of loses me, because they'll send me an email about some guy that's against abortion, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It's mixing other politics in with the gun stuff.
Right. And that's unfortunate because it really shouldn't be that way. So, I mean, I'm not pro-abortion, but I'm more libertarian in that, it's between you and your maker, and I'm willing to let it be there. I'm not going to tell people what they can or can't do. My only problem with abortion is if it's state-funded or federally funded with my tax dollars.
Or if other people are made to fund it.
However you want to look at it. But yeah.
Well, let's not make it an abortion shame.
Yep.
Yeah, that's definitely the third rail when
Yeah.
it comes to.
Yeah, sorry. But it was a valid thing, because like I know that, so we'll take it to a different tangent, and we'll go to religion, which can be just as big of a bomb. But Yankee and I both went to the same rally, and there was a bunch of religious people there that turned it just as much into a religious rally as a gun rights rally.
Guns for
And
Jesus.
yeah, so as much as I could see doing a basic opening prayer, but then the rest of it should have been about gun stuff. And I totally agree with them that they went down a path that wasn't endearing a lot of people there that didn't share those beliefs.
I don't think there should be an opening prayer at such a rally.
Well, I was just minimizing it so they had 1 second to do their thing and then they were done. All right. It would have still been way less than what they did if you could agree with me on that.
Just say we don't start our softball league with an opening prayer because most people there would be like, "Fuck that," So there's.
Yeah. But anyhow. But yeah, separating all the other political issues out of the gunfight would probably be more unifying than any of the other things that we've discussed tonight.
Exactly.
It's like the one we went to. I don't think you went to this one, but the one I went
I
to
don't
in
think
Oregon.
so. That's just self-policing. That's what we started with this whole thing, didn't he?
I went to the one in Oregon recently, and it was just a train wreck. It was, the fat Elvis impersonator that ran the thing was Christian, and the whole night became him telling stories about seeing angels alongside the road and how God gave him the mission to do this for guns. And I'm like, oh God, this is just a train wreck.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate.
I mean, the news media just loved it. They ate it up. Literally, you could watch the crowd quickly thin as the thing. It was just like, yeah.
But a guy like that has an angle, right? To maybe it didn't play well, but he had an angle. He got out there and he tried. And so I can't.
So you give him an E for effort for trying, or an F?
No, I wouldn't say he had an angle. I'd say he had an agenda, and he couldn't.
Yeah, he had an agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which one was more important, and he mixed his agendas.
So I don't know. I mean, you even get into the church population. Like my church, my pastor encourages me to open carry in services, but you have other places where if you open carried in the church, they just have a cow and be like, "Oh, you're an evil person" or whatever. So even within the church, you got people on both sides of the fence, if you will. But personally, I enjoy the fact that I get to open carry at church. It's sort of cool.
I would enjoy all of that except for the church part.
Yep, and that's you're right.
All right, well, that's a dead space, and we're about an hour and a half into it, so I guess we're going to cut it off. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks, people that were participating in the comments. We do those on YouTube and then on Gun Channels, which is social media. Ralph was in here earlier. Glock Guru and I built about a year ago now as an alternative to the other social medias that are out there that tend to be anti-gun. And we do appreciate everybody for their participation and their support there. I'd like to say everybody that's joining us on the YouTube side, that's where we post these live chats every month on the 2nd. Everysecond.us is the website. There's nothing to buy. There's nothing to join. There's no board of directors. It's just a loose group. Pretty much this is a pretty good representation of the guys that started it, minus a couple of key players who join us alternately, every one whenever they can on a Tuesday or on a 2nd of the month. And we're on Facebook and Twitter and all the other social medias of that are popular out there that are worth being on. And whether or not you feel this is something that's worth doing, we do appreciate your tuning in, and we'll see you again in about a month. Anybody else want to say anything when we head out?
Peace out and educate people about the Second Amendment.
Support your local gun rights organizations.
Sounds good. Why don't we take a second and impromptu pro-gun organization? Just I'll go left to right. Yankee, got one in mind that you could recommend?
What do you mean, like a recommended?
Just any pro-gun organization that might come to mind, or one that you like best.
I'm still one of these people that, as much as I am hanging on finger and nail, I still think the NRA is our best bet to enact good change. We just need to, instead of trying to rebuild the wheel, we just need to fine-tune the, balance the wheel we have.
Sounds good. How about Douglas? You haven't said much.
Yeah, I'd just stick with the NRA. I mean, they're the powerhouse.
It's true. Lee?
I can't make a good recommendation. I don't know enough about the local stuff.
You're taking Second Amendment Foundation then. We got to get some on those. Luke?
I got a couple. So I support Oregon Firearms Federation, partly because I carry in that state, a non-resident. Second Amendment Foundation is doing a lot of legal battle work. They're sort of the in-the-trench warriors that you don't hear too much about. And then, all
right, well, that's two.
Of others.
That's two. So, Moon.
I'll go with the Pennsylvania Coalition for Gun Rights and the Gun Owners of America, for the most part.
Good ones. Sandy?
Second, OregonFirearms.org and also OGO, OregonGunOwners.org.
Sounds good. Stone, you still with us anymore?
Yeah, definitely. Like I was going to say, if you're not a fan of the NRA for whatever reason, just find your local state. Like we got GeorgiaCarry.org here, so but just about every state will have some kind of carry organization. So I'd say get behind whatever state you're in.
That's a great one, too. I'm going to say JPFO, Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, is a good one. Our friends over at Florida Carry, definitely doing a lot of work. And we missed a bunch, but they're pretty much a decent list on our website, everysecondmatters.us. If we're missing one there, let us know and we'll add it. We definitely want to keep the word out on them. And we also have every state's Second Amendment, or at least the clause in the state constitution that deals with the Second Amendment. Thanks, guys, and thanks again for everybody that was... I should also mention that we are doing the limited run of the patches over on the Indiegogo. The link will be in the description of the video wherever you happen to see it. Just going to be running that for 5 days, so don't dally. If you want some, grab them. We're not doing this as a profit thing. This is a cost, whatever they cost is what it costs, and just, 5 days, so however many people get in on it, that many people have some new patches. Thanks, guys. And gals. Other people. Dogs, maybe? Do dogs vote? Dogs only don't vote Democrats, so no dogs.